sure to tackle the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on GTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Ramney Tertola Pier Park, NV Salon Spa Nail and Barbershop, HOV Medical, and Digicel. Sign up for Digicel Plus Home Light Bundles, faster internet, movies, and sports. Good day once again, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Solly, BVIEC. We always keep a check on what's going on. I remember last weekend, I think it was, that I did hit you up, Neil, for us to have a quick talk about some things of, community concern. We didn't get to do that interview on Monday, but we are here now. And there has been some development in the very area in which I was seeking to have that interview with you about. And the most pressing right now is the concern about the status of electricity bill payments for especially our health centers across the territory. We would have learned that just recently they were disconnected, and that some of them or most of them, and currently running on their backup, and it's all because of a situation of non-payment. They are the first, the against, and I really can't understand, but the best to explain what's going on is the BVI Electricity Corporation. What's going on?
Okay, in a nutshell, we've had some difficulties with the Health Service Authority, BVI Health Services Authority paying the electricity bill. That has been going on for some time. They're actually the largest delinquent customer that we have. I won't tell you the figure, but it's substantial. And BVIEC is a statutory body that meets its obligations to the customers by the receipt of funds in for services that we render. And right now, we're faced with a situation where BVIEC is expected to provide electricity to the entire territory, with instances where the very customers that we're serving are not paying us for those services. So this has been going on with BVI Health Services Authority for quite some time. And, at some point, it's getting more and more difficult for us to meet our obligations, pay for fuel, change transformers, just deliver the services that we're supposed to be delivering without the financial resources we wish to do that. And what we have done is we have very gently, I would say, sent a message that, hey, we cannot keep this up any longer. For us, we believe, and the reason why we haven't been more drastic is that we believe that the BVI Health Services Authority's decision not to pay BVI Electricity Corporation is not because that they don't want to, but that they can't, right? But at some point, that has to be dealt with because we have a mandate to meet, and that mandate is not met with government subventions. It's met with income from the customers for services delivered, right? So yesterday,
Yes, sir.
We disconnected some of the clinics, not all, but still outstanding is the bill for the main hospital and other clinics.
Now, you said you don't want to release the amount of money that is owed, but are we to understand when you say significance, you're talking in the vicinity of millions or just over $1 million?
Yeah, millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars. And has the Electricity Corporation been in dialogue with the relevant authorities about this? And what has been the response if you really have been talking with them?
There's been consistent dialogue back and forth, and in some cases, monologues where we would send out notices to them and say, hey, this is the delinquent account, and sometimes no answer. And then we'll up the ante, I guess you would say, you call it, and then we might get a response. But, you know, to be frank, at BVIEC, we tend to sympathize with the Health Services Authority, but we also have a business to run, right? And what would make it easier is if we have consistent dialogue, which is sometimes difficult to get. I don't know why, but it's most oftentimes it feels like a monologue and not a dialogue, right? So we just doing our best to make sure that we remain solvent by being compensated for the services that we deliver. And essentially what is happening is that the paying customers are subsidizing the delinquent customers. And in this case, we have a very large customer that has been delinquent for years, I guess. And at some point that needs to be sorted out. Now, whether or not the Health Services Authority has the ability to do that on their own, I am not aware, but it needs to be fixed.
Okay, so what about a person who says, come on, this is healthcare facilities, taking away a critical commodity as electricity from the healthcare facility does not look very well on the part of the BVI Electricity Corporation and its care factor for the people of this territory?
So that is an argument that is, I guess, ill-informed to an extent. How is the BVI Electricity Corporation how are we to be able to even supply the Health Services Authority if they're not paying us for the services we deliver, right? So remember, we're not getting subventions from central government. And if we're not paid for the services we deliver, the very Health Services Authority, we won't be able to supply, right? So, you know, saying that, you know, oh, you can't do that, we hear that all the time. But fundamentally, by not paying us for this level of services that we deliver consistently, you're actually compromising the entire BVI Electricity Corporation, which in turn compromises the entire territory, right? So essentially, by us not receiving compensation for the services we delivered by such a large customer, it actually endangers the entire economy, because then our ability to supply central government with power, to supply the commercial districts with power, to supply the residents with power is compromised. So what we've done is there's a consistent we consistently advise the BVI Health Services Authority and their supervising ministries and all in sundry that, look, we have a problem. We need to at least have a dialogue, right? So that we can figure out how we can proceed to keep the BVI Electricity Corporation in a position where it could continue to meet its mandate, right? While at the same time understanding that you might have challenges on your side. Now, if you don't get any response, what does that say to you, right? And that is what has been happening over time. Now, I believe, even at the board level, down to the operational level, that we have been very patient. We have requested and received sometimes dialogues with them where we agree that this is what we're going to do going forward, in recognition of your challenges. Those obligations have not been met in some cases, or maybe most cases, right? So anyone saying that we don't have the care factor, they're either ill-informed or misinformed, right? Because if the BVI Electricity Corporation is not able to supply because of insolvency power to the entire territory, what do they send in, right? Because at the base of this, you have two very critical entities in a funny position. You have the Health Services Authority, which is there to look at the well-being of the people in the society. You have the BVI Electricity Corporation is there to make sure that the BVI Health Services Authority is in a position to help the people. But at the same time, we also have to make sure that the economy has a fundamental thing, which is electricity, for it to function. So the BVI Electricity Corporation is not able to supply central government, it's not able to supply the supermarkets, it's not able to supply the businesses, is not able to supply the residents who live in the society and who legitimately are struggling to pay the bills every day, then how are you able to function, right? So the issue is, how do we create a situation where the BVI Health Services Authority is able to meet their obligations for services that are rendered to them? That is the question.
Okay. So before flicking that switch yesterday, did you have a dialogue with the relevant authorities, the chairman of the board or the CEO of the BVI Health Services Authority, informing them that, listen, this is deadline and we are going to be taking this course of action?
So this happens almost on a monthly basis, right? And at this point, there was a dialogue, there was correspondence that was sent to BVI Health Services Authority and copied to all other relevant personnel. So my board is aware, the BVI Health Services Authority's board is aware, the ministry is aware. I think maybe our ministry is aware as well, right? So everyone is aware of what the situation is. Now, to just go quiet and do nothing is another issue, right? Now, there was a response from the BVI Health Services Authority, but that response was, what you say, it fell short, so to speak, right? It fell short of actually even addressing the problem. Okay, so like I said, maybe, Kathy, I believe it would be well advised, right, to find out from BVI Health Services Authority why they're unable, because I don't think that they don't want to. I think that they're unable to pay the electricity bill. And that is a question that we need to get behind now. But in the meantime, I have a responsibility to the board. The board has a responsibility to the central government to make sure that the rest of the people in this territory have electricity, especially those that are paying for it.
It's challenging in so many ways to take necessarily a side on this, for the simple fact that you were saying, you are aware that the BVI electricity, the Health Services Authority, is not able to pay their bills, meaning that even if they have backup generators, those can break at any time and they are totally without because they cannot pay. And so you took the decision to take the power away, knowing that they can't pay.
Well, what I'm saying is that we don't believe they have the ability to pay, right? And we only took the power away from the clinics. The main hospital is still on. The clinic in Bojangada is still on. Anigada
We didn't touch that.
is on as well. So what we did is, in military terms, we shot across the bow, right? They said, look, you have a problem, right? So whereas they might have the ability to provide services in some of the communities might be compromised, the issue remains that the main hospital is still there. The main health facility in Bojangada is still there. The main facility in Anigada is still there. So this is just a warning shot. This hasn't compromised the ability significantly to provide the services which they're there to deliver. What it makes it a little more challenging, right? But obviously, we cannot continue to go along except in a situation where you're delivering expensive services to a customer and they're not paying for those services because it compromises everybody else, right? We're not speaking about $100 or $200,
Millions.
right? You're speaking about millions of dollars. So it's a situation that we need to address because I am pretty sure the public in this territory will not be very accepting of the fact that would occur if we are not able to meet our obligations, right? If, for example, because of delinquent customers, we are unable to repair the machines that we have providing power, we are unable to repair lines on the outside, if you're unable to make repairs in people's homes and stuff when things go wrong, the same public that is criticizing us for putting a shot across the bow, the BVI Health Services Authority, will be the same public that lynches us for not meeting the mandate for which we are here for, right? So it's simply that. This is simply commercial. We have been very patient, I would think, we have been very wise, I believe, as well, in not compromising the entire ability, the fundamental ability of the BVI Health Services Authority to provide the services that it should deliver. But what we have done is put a shot across the bow and say, hey, you have to do something because you put in the BVI Electricity Corporation at risk of being able to meet our mandate to the entire population. Right? And that is the crux of the matter. Right? That is the beginning and the end of the matter. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
If I may add, Kathy, to what Dr. Smith said, the BVI Electricity Corporation is tasked with supplying the entire territory with a reliable source of energy. And if we cannot come up with that mandate, if we cannot do that, then we will, the territory will be at risk, as Dr. Smith said. In terms of the corporation's operations, when it comes to our most expensive product being fuel, every month we have to come up with millions of dollars to pay the fuel supplier. And if we don't do that, again, the territory will be in trouble. So again, what we are trying to do is send a message, not to make the BVI electricity look insensitive, but to send a message that we too, we have a business to run, and we have to make sure that we fulfill our obligations on a monthly basis. We are a highly capital intensive organization. We have to make sure those engines are in tip-top shape. And sometimes we find that our suppliers, they too, sometimes before they even send us a nut or a bolt, they request their money up front. So how is a corporation supposed to go ahead operating when we have to continue expending money but not collecting our money? This is the position that we are being placed in. And as BVI Health Services Authority being the most outstanding customer, we rely on the funds for us to be able to operate.
Okay. That lends to the next question I want to ask, because with you taking such an action right now, somehow sends a message that probably BVIEC is experiencing some financial problems. It is always widely felt that one of the most viable entities in this territory is the BVI Electricity Corporation, with good markups and good monies in the kitty. Is the BVIEC in a position where it is strapped for finances or getting very close to that?
Well, how I would answer that question is by saying that the purchasing power of BVIEC is about 30% of what it was in 1975, right? Well, in 1970s. So we will also be aware that our rates haven't increased from inception, right? So the public is aware that the electricity bill goes up, right? We've explained that the reason why your electricity bill goes up is because of the cost of fuel, the fuel component, and also because, some of us have bigger homes with, everything in there using electricity, right? But what hasn't changed is the fundamental rate that the BVI uses to make a profit in order to make capital investments and whatever the case may be, right? So the rates have been there from inception, they have not changed. So whatever increase in rates that you're seeing, really, it doesn't help the BVI Electricity Corporation, right? Because we have to make do, essentially, with the saying that in relative terms, we have to make do with slightly less than what we were able to make do with in the early 1970s or so, 1970, 77.
1980s.
Yeah, or 1980s, right? That is a fact, right? But we also understand that electricity as a fundamental need in society is a fundamental commodity that is required for the economy to function in these modern times, so to speak, unless we want to go back to Flambeau and those type of things, right? We understand that. So we are doing everything in our power not to go to the ministry and say, hey, we need to adjust the rates, right? We avoid that. But the reality of the matter is we essentially have less purchasing power now than we had, let's say, 5 years ago. So what we are being forced to do is to be more and more efficient. And what we're saying, like in this particular case with the BVI Health Services Authority, is that, look, even despite the fact that we're looking down a tunnel, so to speak, where things are going to get increasingly difficult, we still have to subsidize a major customer, right? We are not insensitive to your circumstances, but you need to understand that if you do not meet your obligations for the services that we deliver to you, you will compromise the entire organization, and in turn compromise the territory as a whole. That is what's happening. So yes, we could admit that we don't have the financial freedom that we had several years ago, but we're not at a position where we're willing to, I guess you say, admit that we broke anything. We're not broke, but from a financial standpoint, we know that this current trend, the trajectory that we are now, needs to be arrested, right? And the first step in doing that is to make sure, first of all, that we get paid for the services we deliver. That will make a significant difference, right? We have consistent efforts to be more efficient, right? So, that is the circumstances with which we are faced.
Okay. Is the government substantially delinquent?
I would say no.
No?
No.
Government
If
is
you're
paying up?
separating Health Services Authority from government, the answer to that is no.
What about the private sector? Do you have significant delinquency among your private sector?
The larger customers generally
The
pay.
larger customers generally pay, and of course, we have the liberty, only recourse if customers don't pay, is disconnection. So, unlike we can't really disconnect the hospital, whereas we address the clinics, in terms of the private sector, that's the only recourse we have to collect on money. If you're delinquent, we disconnect you. So for the private sector, they are literally, current and doing well in terms of us collecting and having their receivables pretty low.
Okay, so what does it take now for you to put back that switch on for the community centers,
Well,
community health centers?
There were some conditions that we laid out to BVIEC Health Services Authority. Once they meet those conditions, the power will go back on.
You care to share some of those conditions? We would want to know. We know that the lights are off, so let's know what it takes to put it on back.
Well, they'll have to retire some of the outstanding debt.
Okay. 50%, 25%,
I'm not gonna say.
15%. Tell us something.
I'm not going to say. This is a fellow statutory body, and I want to give them some, There's a Chinese proverb, you never push somebody in a corner. I always give them a way to come out. Right, so
Yeah, but you never know. You never know. We have a very caring community, and I know for a fact that there are so many organizations and entities who, from time to time, do help the BVI Health Services Authorities, whether it be with providing equipment, whether it be providing certain services. But understanding the depth of what's facing the health center now, you saying what you have to say might very well win them some help.
well, like I said, you remember I had a previous professional life before I came back here, right?
And I can see it in play.
Yes, and there are things that I am aware of, but I believe, like I say, I believe it would be prudent to have a conversation with the BVI Health Services Authority so they could let you know what some of the challenges are. When the government of the Virgin Islands introduced the National Health Insurance System, there's a way that is supposed to work in order for BVI Health Services Authority to be solvent and for the National Health Insurance Service to be solvent, right? What I'm aware of is that up until the time that I left that previous professional life, some of the things that were to be done to make sure that was continued to be viable weren't done yet. They were in the process of doing them, but they weren't done yet. Right? Now, without saying anything, because I know a lot more than I'm going to say, right? It might be prudent to understand what is happening between then and now. And I believe the Health Services Authority probably could provide some insight into that.
Okay. And a dialogue is expected soon. Have they contacted you since the switch went off yesterday?
There was a communication.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think this shed a whole lot of light as to what the situation is, and we trust that it can be amicably resolved in the best interest of everyone, and I hope that things could just only get better. Any final thing that you would want to say to the general public to make sure that they are comfortable with what's going on?
Well, as usual, I just like to reiterate to the public that our goal is to keep the lights on, right? And we will do whatever needs to be done to make sure that that is the case, right? Unfortunately, in this circumstance, we have a very large customer that is compromising our ability to meet our obligations to the customers, right? And it would be irresponsible of me as general manager, it would be delinquent of the chief financial officer, and it would be irresponsible of the board to continue along a trajectory that compromises our ability to meet our obligations to the customer. And that is simply what we're trying to do. We have the ability, based on our contractual obligations to the customer, of which the BVI Health Services Authority is one, to have taken a lot more drastic action than we did. Right? Now, some people might not realize that we're exercising a lot of restraint. But the fact of the matter is that now we're in a position where you're compromising our ability to meet a mandate and something has to be done. Okay. Right? It's as simple as that. So, the public just needs to understand we're here to keep the power on. Okay. And if something presents itself, that we find that ability is being compromised, we have to do something about it. Not just talking or lip service. We have to do something concrete. Because we don't go to government and say we want a subvention of $1 million or $2 million. We meet our obligations with the bills that our customers pay. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Mr. Smith, thank you so much for your time. Mrs. Solly, thank you so much for your time. And thank you to our audience for the pleasure of your time. We hope that you would have had some clarity about the situation, and we hope that it only gets better. I'm Kathy Richards. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We know that where you choose to bank matters, and it is your vote on what your funds do in strengthening our community. As your official Bank of Paradise, we invest and support the lifeblood of our economy by helping in the realization of personal goals for homeownership, education, and entrepreneurial visions, which support small businesses. We make it our place to connect with persons and worthy causes, and we have been doing so for more than 30 years. Where your money goes and what your dollars empower are your choice. And we thank you for choosing us, a bank that gives where it matters the most, for you, for our community, and a happier tomorrow. The National Bank of the Virgin Islands.
Are you searching for new home decor items that reflect the season's latest trends? Look no further than Right Way Home. From cushion sets to decorative vases, we have unique pieces to suit every style and budget. Discover your right find at the right price, only at Right Way Home and Right Way Stores.